TK Biomechanics. Aim of TK to restore the mechanical alignment, that is mechanical alignment of 0 degree, balance the ligament to correct the flexion and extension gap, maintain the normal Q angle to ensure the proper patellofemoral tracking, to restore the joint line to allow the proper function of the preserved ligament. Mechanical alignment has two components, axial alignment which can be assessed by the X-ray, rotational alignment which cannot be assessed by the X-ray. It can be only seen by intraoperative time and by the CT scan. Axial alignment of the lower limb is assessed by the drawing the mechanical axis of the limb by the drawing a line from the center of the femoral head to center of the ankle. When it passes through the knee, then it's called the neutral alignment. When it passes medial to the knee, it's called the varus alignment. When it passes lateral to the knee, then it's called the valgus alignment. Anatomical femoral axis is the line drawn along the femur medullary canal, and anatomical tibial axis is the line drawn along the medullary canal of the tibia. The amount of the deformity, either varus and the valgus, is measured by the drawing the line, that is the mechanical axis of the femur from the center of the femoral head to the interpendular notch, and mechanical axis of the tibia from a line from the center of the proximal tibia to the talus. The angle between two indicate the amount of the deformity. Here it is 15 degree of deformity, and now coming to this diagram, we draw the mechanical axis of the femur and mechanical axis of the tibia. We get the 20 degree of the valgus deformity, and in the middle figure, when the mechanical axis of the tibia form the 0 degree, it is called the neutral or 0 degree mechanical axis. Here, the mechanical axis of the limb is passing medial to the joint line, so there is a varus deformity, and the joint line is also not perpendicular to the mechanical axis of the femur and mechanical axis of the tibia. But after doing the total knee replacement, the mechanical axis of the tibia is passing through the knee, and the joint line is perpendicular to the mechanical axis of the femur and mechanical axis of the tibia. So the TKA creates the joint line of the knee perpendicular to the neutral mechanical axis in single double leg stance. The valgus cut angle is the angle between the anatomical axis of the femur and the mechanical axis of the femur, and it is around 5 to 7 degree. And intermediary femoral jig represents the anatomical axis of the femur, and distal cutting femoral jig has to be rotated to the amount of the valgus cut angle to make the distal femoral cut perpendicular to the mechanical axis of the femur. The valgus cut angle is measured on the long leg X-ray by drawing the anatomical axis of the femur and the mechanical axis of the femur, and the angle between two which indicate the valgus cut angle. And whenever we use the intramedullary jig of the femur, then the distal cutting jig has to be rotated to the amount of the valgus cut angle to make the distal femoral cut perpendicular to the mechanical axis of the femur. The tibial alignment is assessed by the drawing the anatomical axis of the tibia, that is line drawn along the medullary canal, and the mechanical axis of the tibia is the line drawn from the center of the proximal tibia to the center of the talus, and the proximal tibia is cut perpendicular to the mechanical axis of the tibia. The usually mechanical axis and the anatomical axis of the tibia are coincident, and therefore we can easily cut the proximal tibia perpendicular to the anatomical axis. The posterior slope of the upper innerfoot tibia is 7 to 10 degree. It is measured by the drawing the line along the seam of the tibia or along the medullary canal, then the line perpendicular to this line and another line along the joint line of the tibia. The angle between the two lines is the posterior tibial slope. And the anterior crest of the tibia provides the reliable reference for the establishing the posterior slope of the tibial plateau. By the entry displacement of the jig by the 1 centimeter period, the 1.5 degree of the posterior tibial slope. By the increasing 2 centimeter, it creates the 3 degrees of posterior tibial slope. The tibial component has inbuilt some posterior tibial slope of about the 5 degrees, so the required slope is only 3 degrees. Now the rotational alignment, as we stated before, it can be assessed only intraoperatively and by the CT scan, and it can be established by the major resection technique, gap balancing technique, or major resection gap balancing integrated technique. Here we see the posterior cut of the femur or the anterior cut of the femur determine the femoral rotation, determine the rotational alignment of the limb, and it also has effect on the flexion gap and the patellofemoral tracking, whereas the distal femoral cut has effect on the extension gap only. Now, the mechanical axis of the limb and the joint line form the lateral distal femoral angle of about 87 degree or the medial patellar tibial angle of 87 degree. So the joint line is 3 degree nearest to the mechanical axis. That means the mechanical axis is not perpendicular to the joint line, but the proximal tibia is cut perpendicular to the mechanical axis of the tibia. So in the native mean, if the proximal tibia is cut parallel to the joint line, means at 87 degree to the mechanical axis of the tibia, and the posterior condyle is cut also along the joint line, that is along the posterior condylar line, then we will get the rectangular space. But usually in the TKA, we cut the proximal tibia perpendicular to the mechanical axis of the tibia, and when we cut the posterior part of the condyle of the femur along the joint line or along the posterior condylar line, then we get the trapezoidal gap. That is not good. So we have to rotate the 3 degree with reference to the posterior condylar line to get the rectangular gap that is desired. This is the reason for the slight external rotation of the femoral component to get the rectangular gap. Other reference point are the AP axis of the femur, that is also called the white side line, is the line drawn from the lowest point of the proclia to the highest point of the intercondylar notch. And the epicondylar axis and the 3 degree rotation of the posterior condylar line discussed earlier, and the cut surface of the tibia or the tibial alignment axis. The major resection technique is characterized by the use of the bony landmark to determine the femoral component rotation. With this technique, in contrast to the gap balancing, bone cuts are made before the soft tissue tension takes place. Generally, 3 bony landmarks are referenced. They are the AP axis, transepicondylar axis, and posterior condylar line. In major resection technique, all the cut of the femur is done with the reference of the bony landmark of the femur itself, such as the transepicondylar line, AP axis, and the posterior condylar line, and it is not referenced with any landmark of the tibia. In the gap balancing technique, the first tibia is cut perpendicular to the mechanical axis of the tibia. Then the balancing of the tension of the soft tissue and the flexion gap is done, and then the femoral bone cut is made to create the equal rectangular gap in the both flexion and the extension with reference with the tibial cut surface. And so the tibial cut surface is very important, and the success tied to the accurate tibial cut. In the gap balancing technique, I just stated earlier, first proximal tibial cut is being done perpendicular to the mechanical axis of the tibia, then soft tissue tensioning and balancing of the flexion cap is done with reference cut tibial surface as a reference point to create the rectangular flexion and the extension gap. In the major resection technique, both techniques are combined